well, the Zimbabwe Annual Investment Conference is currently taking place in South Africa. I caught up with Firdhose Coovadia, the Resident Director of Africa, Middle East and Turkey at the Essar Group, on issues of beneficiation and mining rights, keeping in mind that the Essar Group has a $750 million deal on the table for 2 years now. That's with the Zimbabwean government to invest in the Zimbabwean steel unit there. That's been mothballed for 3 years now, in fact, and that, of course, also comes with a condition that they get iron ore mining rights. And this, of course, is what he had to say on that.
And frankly, for a company like ours, today we're at 14 million tons global steel capacity. To invest primarily in a smallish, relatively small steel plant in Zimbabwe doesn't make sense on its own. It has to be a scale project. There are many iron ore projects in the world. So again, when I say that the detractors that tend to look at the negative aspects of the deal forget is there are massive iron ore deposits and projects underway in West Africa, in Brazil, in Australia, all of which are underpinned by significant amount of mining without beneficiation. Many of them have no beneficiation, especially the West African ones, where it's just going to be purely take the ore out of the ground, ship it to whoever will buy it at the price. What we were very careful to do is, one, a recognition from the beginning that the iron ore was not of sufficient quality to be able to export. And anyway, the government and ourselves in negotiation agreed that we will add value to the product in country in Zimbabwe as part of the industrialization strategy. And so I think, detractors from the deal need to understand the economics. They need to understand the value of the resource. And, the value of the resource has been publicized at numbers which, frankly, if you ask any investment bank, if you ask anyone who knows iron ore, are way off the mark. So
the 32 billion I quoted was possibly not correct.
The 32 billion you quoted was a number that's been thrown around in terms of size, quantity of resource, tonnage. In terms of value of that depends on exploration. And frankly, we're going to be exploring jointly with the government. It's got a value that is way less. I've heard the number of $30 billion for that resource. I mean, if it is $30 billion, if I was the government of Zimbabwe, I would say, okay, let's, take this resource, give it to someone else, clear our national debt, and it's over. But frankly, there's been no one there. West African iron ore projects with better quality iron ore have been stopped because of global markets.
Your perspective as a global group in terms of operating in Zimbabwe, how's the experience been for you?
Samantha, we've been pleasantly surprised. I mean, starting off, the greatest asset Zimbabwe has is its people. It's one of the few countries in the world with high literacy, skilled people, people that respect the law, frankly, and people that are extremely reasonable to do business with. So let's take away the politicking, the one-upmanship between ministries and ministers and political parties. If you cut down to the rank and file of people you meet in Zimbabwe, people you interact with, they're extremely reasonable people, they're smart people, they're skilled people. They need, obviously, a lot of skills training because there's been a gap. We've seen a diaspora that is willing to come back to Zimbabwe. They want to be in Zimbabwe. They don't want to be in South Africa or England or Germany. They're willing to come back and lend their skill to the project, which I think is incredibly encouraging. You've got a country with a phenomenal natural resource base, which should make it competitive in almost every single one industry that it chooses to be in, whether it's agriculture, whether it's platinum, whether it's coal, or whether it's iron ore and chrome. You have a political will, again, notwithstanding everything you read in the newspaper about the infighting and the politicking. You have a political will, I think, to put the country on what is likely to be a decade or 2 decades of a golden era in Zimbabwe's history. And you have a very safe environment. It's a safe environment to operate in. For us, we're a global company, but our origins are from India. We find that cultural assimilation of our people into Zimbabwe has been a wonderful experience. We've managed to integrate both Zimbabweans and expats from around the world in our team, and I think we're incredibly encouraged by what the country has to offer.